Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and this is a new release this time. This is Hereditary, the big prominent horror film that's out right now. Very high critical praise, getting a lot of buzz. A lot of buzz from the critics, not so much buzz from the audiences. um,
Oh, really?
if you look at the like the cinema score, it's got like a D. If you look at the users' Rotten Tomatoes versus the critic Rotten Tomatoes, it's like half of the
Oh,
score.
wow, I
So
did not know that.
yeah, no, so this will be an interesting conversation. We'll start spoiler free, as we always do, and we'll give you warning before we get into spoilers. But yeah, so Hereditary, that's what we're talking about today. All right, let's go. I thought Tim had something there, but I'll go into it. Hereditary. Hereditary is a slow burn supernatural film, and I'll leave it at that. I feel like anything else beyond that
Sure.
is probably a spoiler, so I think we'll talk about it without the plot, and then we'll give you the spoiler warning before we get into the plot. So,
Sure, that's fair.
but I guess the first thing that I always do is I'll ask Tim,
Yeah.
did you enjoy Hereditary?
Oh boy, uh, did I ever? This is absolutely amazing. I was like like yeah, as horror fans, this one has been really getting hyped. For the last couple of months. A lot of I think it premiered at some festivals, and you're getting all the kind of the usual headlines when you get a big movie like this, where it's like oh, scariest movie in years, like people fainting in the audience and blah blah blah. So I was really excited, but I was a little nervous because sometimes if something gets too hyped, it's it can be disappointing, and then I was also kind of like like you said, it's a very like a it's a criticky one where like a lot of critics are kind of gushing about it and stuff, and then so it's kind of like
It's
from
it's the zeitgeist horror movie this year, right?
yeah.
Like a few years ago we had The Witch, we had It Follows one year. Last year's was Get Out.
Get Out, yeah.
So we seem to have one of these every year where there's like the zeitgeist one where the critics are kind of like, oh, this was actually really good. And, yeah.
Yeah, but then I was kind of getting nervous because then I think like you kind of start to hear some like articles or stuff or people talking about like trying to say like like oh it's a not so much a horror movie as this kind of elevated piece of cinema and stuff, and then like I was kind of getting nervous. It's like, oh, is it going to be one of those like drama things or whatever? But I can very I'm happy though by the end of it I can like, oh no, this was like full on horror, but it is just unrelenting. I think the performances are amazing. It's directed very creepily, but like there isn't anything that I thought felt cheap. I was actually talking to a friend that was kind of saying like, oh, it just had like the usual dumb jump scares and stuff, and I was like, I really didn't get that from it. Like there definitely are kind of like um maybe like jumpy moments, but it definitely doesn't feel like a cheap or undeserved way you'll see like in a lot of kind of dumb cliche movies. But yeah, I was pretty much like on the edge of my seat like pretty early on. It kind of gets you in its grip, and it like once this thing kind of this the kind of big thing happened, it is just like I feel like I was holding my breath for the rest of the movie because it's just like wild where it goes. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I can't say enough good things about it.
So you thought it was okay, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's like C plus B minus.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm hearing you. Um, no, I liked it quite a bit as well. I think
Okay.
it's very well directed. The performances, as you say, are kind of maybe even the standout of the movie. Tony
Oh
Collette,
yeah.
who plays Annie, has some fantastic scenes. There's a couple of key moments that I think are like the shining tentpole moments of the movie. Where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, those are the scenes that I am always going to think about when I think of Hereditary. Um,
Exactly. And
uh,
it is something that like sticks with you. Like it's been a what, like maybe a little over a week since I've seen it
hmm.
now, and like it'll still just every now and again pop in my head. I'm like, man, that one scene, like Jesus.
No, I mean, I think it's a great movie. Um, I will say that I do think that it lost me a little bit in the third act.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna have this problem because just because
You
of
know
where
me too
it
well,
goes.
Tim.
Yeah,
You know
I
me too
know.
well.
Yeah, it's a and I heard some people kind of complain about again, without giving too much away, kind of like a shift in maybe some things, but I was fully on board with
I
where it
think
went, but I can see it being a problem for some people.
I think for me, the movie is so like restrained in everything it does, right? It's very dark, it's very brooding, it does a lot of things. There's a lot of things that fill you with horror. But a lot of the things it fills you with horror with aren't necessarily even things that are, even veering into like any sort of supernatural element or anything like that. They're just kind of like there. And
It's a lot of like mental illness stuff and kind of the
yeah,
the horror of living with someone with that
yeah.
like affliction.
There's a lot to it, and then I do think there's a point in the movie where it starts just being like, "Oh no, we're supernatural now," and once it went into that a bit more overtly, I was kind of like, oh, "Okay, all right." There was a bit of a shift there, and it did take me kind of by the side a little bit. But that's to say that the scenes after that point aren't handled very well. There's some standout great scares and stuff after that
Oh,
point.
definitely, yeah.
It's still well directed. It's still well shot. And I think I like the ending more that now that I've had time to think about it a little bit in the few days since I've seen it. So I think it's one that will work really well in multiple viewings. I think first time through though, the third act did feel like a bit of a shift in compared to what the movie was willing to do with its mythology in the first two thirds. I guess I'll put it that way.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I think like at one point it is like kind of like ambiguous about what's going on, and I think I don't think at any point the movie like tricks you. Like it's not like it's saying like, oh, this stuff definitely isn't happening and this person's crazy or whatever. Like I think there are little seeds that are planted that I think you are kind of led to believe that a certain thing is going on or whatever, and then but it doesn't feel like it is a like a cheap like 180 where it's like, oh wait, where'd this come from all of a sudden? It's just like, I think most people's like when they're viewing it, they're kind of thinking like, oh well, this is probably happening. And so like I do kind of understand that complaint.
Yeah,
But I'm
just to
also
make it
like,
clear, it's not that I didn't think for a second that nothing was happening before. Like it wasn't like I was thinking, "Oh, this is all just in heads. This is mental illness. This is just that. There's nothing actually going on." I always thought there was something going on, but I thought it was going to, play it a bit more close to the chest and not just overtly show
sure, yeah.
elements of it. But there's a point where it's like, no, they're just supernatural things are going to start happening in front of you, and they're going to be, like. I felt like it shifted in terms of how much it wanted to show, and obviously with a movie there's a natural build. You might want to start like little and build as the movie goes on. I felt like this felt very restrained up until a point, and then just went, okay, it's time,
Yeah, like
showtime, folks. It's time to
yeah,
go.
the floodgates are open, and
Yeah.
And if it was and luckily like all that stuff I think is handled very well. Like it could have easily like if it wasn't handled well, then I can see it being more of a like, oh man, why'd they go this route, But I think luckily, this director who if I am to understand, I believe this is his first film.
Yeah, Ari
he
Aster's
directed.
director. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did like some short stuff, which I've heard people say are pretty disturbing as well. I think they're kind of less horror-y and definitely more like real life stuff, but kind of interested in checking those out. That's if anything though, I think the first like 1 or 2 thirds of the movie, like the thing I kept thinking in my head is like, whoa, this feels like too real. Like like you said, like the performances were so good, and it's just like obviously it's like situations that I've never been in, but like I could feel what it would be like to be in those shoes, which is just outstanding and really just levels up like the amount of tension and stuff you're feeling.
I do think I like the first 2 thirds better than the last third, especially. And maybe I'll change my mind when I see it again, and I go into it with the context of the whole thing. But all the standout moments I have in my head are all in that first like 2 thirds.
Yeah.
Right, all those big standout moments, and I think for me, the movie is at its absolute best. And again, I'll keep this spoiler free here. But the movie's at its absolute best when a character is concerned about something, and it's the slow build to that becoming a realization, or in one big specific case, it's a character who something's happened and they've not told the rest of the characters yet, and you're waiting for the moment of discovery, right? That is when the movie is at its absolute best.
I think like during that scene, which it's probably not that long, but to me it felt like it was like, as you're watching it, it's like, wow, this feels like it's taking like 15, 20 minutes when it's probably like, what, like 2 or 3 minutes or whatever. But I honestly feel like I, was holding my breath the entire time. Like I just forgot to breathe because you are so caught up in the moment and you are just so like, what is going to happen? Like, what is the fallout going to be? Does he understand what's going on? Was there like a break in reality? Like, or it's just so well done.
Yeah, no, it's the way it handles the drama. But the other standout scene for me, again, it's a dinner scene. There's a scene where there's a bit of a family fight that breaks out at dinner, and it's so well done, and it's the tension building up in the family where people feel like they're it's not like, I don't know why I say they're scared of each other, but it's just this feeling of like, we're kind of hating each other right now. We're building to hate between each of the family members, where we don't, or better yet, we simply don't trust each other in this family. And it's this building, and it erupts at this dinner scene, and it's really good stuff. And for me, that was like a standout. I was like, oh, this is so good. This is like, it's almost like what was that movie recently? Veronica, right? That possession movie we did, Veronica, right? And you remember how in that we said the actual family drama stuff of it, where she's just dealing with it and the horror's kind of in the background, was the best stuff. But then when it actually started doing the supernatural horror things, that's when it was its weakest. I don't think this drops down at the supernatural stuff like that did. There was still this is still handled very, very well. But it's kind of a similar thing where I think this movie is at its best when it's dealing with the actual the real tension of this family falling apart because of the events that are happening.
And it almost makes you like feel kind of like a voyeur or something, because it just feels so authentic. Like, it's not like, big over the top witty dialogue. Like it's not like, people snapping back and forth. Like that dinner scene, it starts off very, quiet and subdued, and then people are kind of saying stuff, and then you get some people that are kind of like, making like whatever, and then people kind of being like, oh, do you have a problem? And then kind of escalates and escalates, and before people are saying stuff that they can't take back. And that is really well done. Like another scene that like really stands out to me is a something kind of similar along those lines, where two of the characters are talking, and one of the characters says something that a person should never say to their child. That's like my whole theater, like, and as soon as they say it, like, they cover their mouth and are, they're instantly like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. And that actually got like a loud gasp in my theater. Like, I feel like usually, you only get like these like, big group reactions when it's like a big scare or something. But like in my theater, everyone was like, ooh.
No, that was a big moment. That was a really good scene. There's a lot of subtleties in that scene as well that we can't talk about till spoilers. So
and then and also too, sorry, just like the everything just like looked really great. And then there's this whole like kind of theme and imagery of like doll houses and miniatures, which are
well, of course,
like,
we should mention the reason why there is miniatures like that is because Annie makes them. She makes miniatures. She's actually working on like a show for a gallery, sort of over the course of the film. And she's got this deadline and it keeps getting extended, and that's kind of like, just, I guess, adding to the stress of her character.
And you can kind of like start to see it like getting reflected in her work, like, like as it goes on, like her work kind of gets more and more like gruesome and stuff. But it's but it all just makes like a really cool kind of motif for the whole movie. And then and I think it plays into like a larger theme, which we'll wait to get into in spoilers. But
just on the filming style, it's very restrained. It's very there's not a lot of flashy cuts. There's not a lot of flashy kind of moments. Is very, like you say, you feel like a voyeur because it doesn't do like extreme things. I mean, that's not to say there's never any like moves or anything like that. There are, of course, there are moves, but it's very methodical. It's very slow and paced, and it kind of treats it like it is a family drama first, but the horror is there around it.
Yeah, you can tell that he has like no trouble with like letting a scene breathe.
Yes. Yes. A lot of nice big empty wide shots in the house where the characters feel alone in the shots. They feel isolated. Because it's actually quite a big house for like the 4 people who are living there. So but yeah. So I think we won't get into spoilers though. I think there's so much to talk about that, and it's all spoiler gated, so we have to kind of dive into it. But they'll say if you're into horror, this is absolutely worth seeing. It is exactly the kind of film where if you get a shitty audience, they might ruin it, because it's the type of
Yeah.
film where your teenage assholes will just start laughing at things because they don't understand it because it's weird.
Yeah. And
So
I think if you have liked, if you're similar to us, like you mentioned earlier, if you really, really enjoy these kind of, what do you call them, like prestige, I guess, elevated horror films or whatever from the last couple of years, like
I mean, good horror films is basically what that sums up as. But
sure, yeah. But I mean, if you're looking for, just like a cheesy slasher or something, like obviously this isn't it, but yeah, like and it's from a A24 who's been kind of putting out like those, like it did The Witch and stuff, and it seems to be kind of this studio for like these kind of good like prestige horror films.
Not even just horror films. Me and Connor have been talking about this a lot in the trailers show specifically. Is that every time it says A24 at the start, you know that it's like a curated little indie film. Even if it's not something to our taste, everything they seem to put out is always something that's getting awards, because it's always these nice little low budget, like, films, I guess.
Yeah.
They're really nice to have in a world that's full of the big Disney making $200 million tentpole movies and your Avengers 57 and whatnot. So that's nice. So full spoilers. We're going to spoilers. Yep. Full spoilers for Hereditary. You have been warned. In fact, did you stay till the end of the credits?
Yes, they play one last cluck, if I believe.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
I never did, but I found out after. Did you actually stay?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, just curious. Why did you stay? Were you expecting something at the end?
I don't know. I think it's just kind of a thing. I saw this with Melissa. We usually just tend to stay, just in case. Really, like I think the only time I don't stay is if I really don't like the movie. Like,
I need to get out of here. I need to breathe. I can't breathe. There's too much shit.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Yes. Which is how you should have felt when you saw The Boy. But
nope.
I digress. So,
A24 is The Boy.
Oh God, no. They even sullied their good name with that shit. So where to begin? I mean, I guess we talk about the overall stuff and then sort of deep dive afterwards.
So basically, like, it starts with so it's kind of like a small fan. It's like Toni Collette, her husband. I don't know who the actor is, but he's pretty good.
Gabriel Byrne.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He was great. All the performances in here are great. And then you have the two kids, Peter and Charlie, and it. I believe it starts with them getting ready for the grandmother's funeral.
Yeah. Toni Collette, Annie's mother, specifically, who's died. The first sign of creepiness, the first sign it was like, okay, this is a cult. There's a cult thing happening. Is when the guy with the smile looking at Charlie.
Oh yeah.
When she's at the coffin, he's got this
creepy.
big cheesy grin looking at her. And I know that actor from something actually. I'm sure he's popped up and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, while you look that up, like one of my favorite, like early on, just scenes of uneasiness is when she's talking about her mother and stuff, and she just kind of has like a little like offhanded comment where like she mentions like, oh, like she loved Charlie so much, like she would never let me feed her, she always wanted to feed her, and then like you kind of assume that she means that like she wanted to feed him baby food or whatever, but then you have like a scene coming up like a little bit where you see she's made a diorama of like her mother, like this old lady, like just with her breast out trying to breastfeed like the baby, which is just like very unsettling.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the overall thing then is that Annie's mother was the leader of this cult. She was the queen of this cult. Mm-hmm. And she wanted the demon Payman, right? Payman. She wanted to give Payman a body, right? And we hear at one point Annie goes to when she's dealing with coping with her mother's death, she goes to like a self-help group, and it's when the key part of information from that scene is when she's talking about her brother who committed suicide. Mm-hmm. He committed suicide because her mother was trying to put other people inside him. She was trying to give Payman a body of her son, and the relationship between Annie and her mother was so bad that she wasn't even talking to her when Peter was born. But she tried to like mend the bridges before Charlie was born. So this was like, and as she even puts it, she got her hooks into Charlie at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
So Charlie's really weird. She makes that clicking noise all the time. She's cutting off bird heads outside. She's doing all sorts of weird shenanigans, and she's generally just got a very creepy look to her.
Yeah, like I feel like they kind of dress her in like these really like overly long like sweaters and stuff, and she kind of has like long wild hair. Like doesn't really look like it's like really like brushed that well or something. Like I feel like they're trying to give her this kind of weird outsidery look.
Yeah, and so the movie is that this demon needs a male body. So it becomes quite clear at a point that, okay, whatever the cult, who we never really see that much, by the way, like it's all kind of out of sight. You just kind of get the impression there's people working behind the shadows. That's kind of what the dollhouses and the miniatures kind of represent, is the idea that there's people manipulating, like Annie's manipulating these little figures in the dollhouse. There's other forces manipulating this family.
Yeah, they're all like dolls in this house.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
And so we know, okay, right, so they want Peter's body, but I think the biggest probably twist is that the payment was always in Charlie. Charlie was born with payment inside of her, but it needs a male body. So the actual story of the film is that this cult, as the book says at one point, they have to wear down the male host so that he's ready and willing to accept payment as an entity. So the film is actually about them wearing down Peter to the point where he's actually going to let payment in.
Yeah, which I think some of the I don't know, like some of the scenes where I felt like the worst was when Peter would just be freaking out, and like I feel like you don't see this in horror movies a lot, and this might be something that like shitty teenage audiences might laugh at, but just like whenever he's afraid and he just starts like screaming for like mommy or daddy, like to me that's like such a real thing, because like you're a like bratty teenager, you want to seem cool and stuff, but then just having that breakdown where like you could see him reverting to like a childlike state, and he's like, I just need my mommy and daddy, and like I thought those were like so hard to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's so. But here's the thing: so we don't actually necessarily know that until later on in the film, where we put these pieces together. But that's what's kind of going on, right? And the film ends, of course, with this happening, with him being crowned and his payment. And it was Charlie, because it's all throughout the film, after Charlie's death, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But after Charlie's death, there's like, he keeps seeing like this fluttering of light, this sort of light going through the room, right? He sees it a few times throughout the film, and at the end of the film, it goes into his body, implying that this is Charlie, aka Payment, and he clucks at the end like she did, and he's just kind of staring. I mean, why this cult is so determined to get Payment, I'm not even sure. That's because he's still like a zombie. Look at him, he's useless.
Yeah. Well, I think they mentioned something about Payment, like
riches,
that basically seems to be the justification for it. You get
I'm just joking because even when at the end when it's like inside inside Peter's body, he's still just sort of style like.
Yeah. So the one thing I wasn't sure about though is like, is he ever like, because you're talking about like that like flash of light or whatever kind of thing. So was that Payment in like other people's bodies? Because because at one point like Toni Collette's like running around and chasing him, so I'm assuming that something is in her, but I wasn't sure if it's just like if it was that specific demon or something else.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's specifically Payment that's inside her. I read the light thing as every time he sees it, Payment's basically checking to see if he can enter.
Okay.
And every time he can't, right? But obviously over the course of the movie until we get to the end.
Yeah, because I kind of thought that was him going like from body to body, because there's the scene with Toni Collette and the husband, and she makes the husband burn the book for her, and when he does, he catches on fire, and then you see the light, and then I think that's when Toni Collette seems to become possessed or start acting weird. So for me, it kind of seemed like a signifier of like, oh, this demon or whatever is in her body now. But I don't know. It's kind of hard with one view. It might make more sense if I go back and watch it now, looking for it.
Yeah, I never get the sense that Payman was inside her specifically, but I could be wrong. Because obviously once Toni Collette's possessed and we get to the point where she's chasing Peter around the house, and there's a lot of creepy moments where she's just sort of hiding out in the background. It's really creepy, where she's just in the corner of the room the entire time in the darkness, and you can just barely see her until she actually moves and does her thing. But of course, you have to.
I think like in that specific scene too. I think that was like a big surprise. Because it's like you're kind of like dark and stuff, and yeah, I didn't catch it right away, but then once you notice like like her up in that corner, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. But yeah, you have the scene with her banging the head in the attic door, and then of course where she self decapitates while she's floating in the sky, or up the ceiling of the attic.
Yeah, so is decapitation like, is there something more to that? Because it happens to like several characters in this. So I don't know if that's like a specific.
Well, more specifically, it happens to all three of the women in the family. It happens to Annie, her daughter, and her mother.
Okay. Oh, true. Yeah,
they're the ones who are all decapitated.
Yeah. Maybe it's part like I mean, obviously they don't like overly state it, but maybe that might have to do something with the ritual or.
Yeah, I took it as ritualistic, I guess, more than anything else. But yeah, so all this stuff happens, and it's very overt. I think the moment for me when the movie started going full supernatural is when Toni Collette comes upstairs and she sees the book, the one that was burned, later. She sees that just flipping on its own and drawing, and that was the point where I went, "Oh wait, we're just doing full on like supernatural things are happening now." Because up until that point, it'd been very, I don't know, because even we did have the scene with Joan, and we'll talk about Joan in a bit as well, where she does a seance, right, and it writes on the chalk on its own, and I'm like, okay.
I love Toni Collette's reaction during that scene.
Her reaction felt very authentic to that. That felt like the most realistic reaction to a seance actually doing something that I've ever seen in a movie.
I feel like most movies, the person would just be like, whoa, how is this happening? But yeah, she's just like has this like manic like laughter that she can't like figure out what's going on.
Yeah, she checks under the table, she's looking around for the trick, she's determined to find out. So I mean, obviously that was quite like overt, but that scene built so slowly, and there was so much tension as it built up, and she was so skeptical, and then it happened. But after that point, we had the book just flipping on its own, drawing things constantly, doing the seance with the husband and son, and I like that stuff because that was kind of like, okay, if they think she's mentally ill at this point, they think she's going crazy, and this is kind of like a big step for her, and you can see the husband is getting really tired of this, and he's really worried, and he's panicking about this to the point that when she finds the decapitated corpse of her mother in the attic, he actually thinks it was her that did it. Like he's so convinced that she's psycho at this point that did you do this? Did you dig her up and then cut off her head? Was this you? So, and of course, obviously, you assume that the mother died in some sort of sacrificial ritual as well. You have to imagine at this point.
Sure.
I mean, she was old, but I mean, there's so much. Everything else that happens in this movie, I'm pretty sure of it. But yeah, so that was where I was talking about the shift earlier. Is that okay? All right, so we're doing all this stuff now, but the actual scares and all this stuff in the last act, her in the background, cutting off her own head. The naked cultists who they're just kind of standing in the shadows off in the distance at various points. I mean, there was a point where I'm like, okay, we've turned into a full horror movie now, and there was an element of me that was a little bit disappointed in that because it was so restrained for the first 2/3, and it was so much about the inner dread of the characters that once it started doing actual like creepy things coming out of the shadows, I was like, okay, right, I like this stuff, but it does feel like a change from what was there before. It almost sacrificed one type of horror for another to me. And I might not feel that way in another viewing, but yeah.
No, like I totally get that. Like for me, it might just be my taste because I just, I love like ghosts and demons so much that, I think they should go that route for every movie. Like,
no,
the next
never.
Fast and the Furious, it should just end with like a big demon coming out of nowhere. But no, like I think that is definitely a fair complaint to have. But I think again though it's like so well done, and at that point I'm just so entrenched in the characters and along for the ride that it didn't bother me. But I wouldn't judge someone that felt that way though.
Oh, good. Don't judge me. I'll judge you. You're judged. But of course we've kind of jumped to all the big flashy stuff at the end. Let's rewind a little bit and talk about the first half of the movie, because we have, Peter likes this girl at school and he wants to go to this party, and the mom's like, "Oh, take your little sister," and you get the sense that the mom and the daughter aren't particularly close. It's kind of a weird relationship. We also find, of course, that she doesn't have a great relationship with Peter because there was a weird incident years ago when she used to sleepwalk, where she sleepwalked into his room, doused both him and Charlie in paint thinner, and had a match in her hand, and also herself. She doused herself, and it's funny actually because after getting to the end of the movie, I kind of reread this scene as like subconsciously somehow she knew what her mother was going to do to her family. So this was like almost like her trying to just stop it from happening.
Oh, I didn't think about that,
Just
but
kill,
I like that.
just kill us all, and if not just to stop it from happening to the family, maybe more of like a heroic idea of, well, Payman can't come to Earth. Like, everyone's screwed if that happens. So it's a noble sacrifice, I guess. Deep down, she had that thought. Because the scene you were talking about earlier, where everyone gasped, where she sleepwalks into Peter's room, and then he wakes up and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And obviously, with the memory of this paint thinner thing, starts freaking out, and it's like, "Hey, what are you doing here, Mum?" Blah blah blah. And she starts getting really honest, and she says the line which you were talking about, which is, "I never wanted to be your mother."
And I just love, like, as soon as she says, just like instantly, like her mouth like goes to her, or her hand goes to her mouth, where she's like, you can tell she's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that."
And then he keeps prodding. He's like, because and it's because her mother clearly wanted her to have a son, and she tried to miscarry. She says that, "I tried to get rid of you." I'm glad it didn't, but I'm glad. But the neat thing about this scene is that as it's cutting between them with every line, they're gradually getting more and more wet looking, and at the end of the scene, you realize they're doused in paint thinner. Now it turns out this is a dream. She wakes up and this is not real, but it's a really effective scene on its own. It is really good stuff, and like I say, so to go all the way back, she says, "Okay, you're going to this party. You're not drinking. Take your sister." I mean, this is one of these weird things in like movies and TV where the parents always take your younger sister to this thing. It's like, why would the younger brother or sister ever want to go and hang out with all of the older brother's friends? Never.
Yeah, they feel like different enough in age where, like, and like personality and stuff, where it seems like that would be weird. Like growing up, I did, kind of like look up to my older brothers and like, would like to hang out with them. But I think at like this age with that type of party, that would definitely be something I wouldn't want to go to.
Yeah, like obviously, yeah, you can be friends with older people, but I mean, you wouldn't want to go to like a party with your older brother where it's all people his age. When you're obviously now it doesn't matter because you're all adults, but like
To be fair though, he didn't like tell his mom that it was like a school barbecue or something. Like he didn't say like, oh, it's a big house party with drinking and stuff. So
yeah, I still got the impression though that she would have thought that it was all his age group.
Yeah,
it was all his classmates in year. That's what I got from it. Even through the lie, that's what I was kind of getting from what he was saying. But
I do like though that and again, just this, more to the movie feeling more authentic and stuff. Like, I feel like most movies would have had him going like, "But mom, she's lame," or so, like. But in this, it's kind of just like a little more awkward. Like you can tell he doesn't want to bring her, but he's like, "Well, does she want to go?" Like,
yeah, it very much deals with the awkward. And I think as you get more of the relationship and you get this incident with the paint thinner in the past, why they're so kind of disconnected and why they have this weird kind of relationship. So obviously goes to the parties, he's hanging out with a girl, he's not paying attention to his sister.
Cut to a bunch of nuts getting chopped.
Yes, they teased earlier on the film that there was she has a nut allergy, and she eats this cake, and it's got nuts in it, and she starts hyperventilating, she can't breathe.
This was hard to watch.
Yeah, and obviously even right now, I'm getting like kind of like it's a very real stress. It's like, wait a minute, you're the one taking care of your sister, and you don't have her inhaler or whatever she takes for this with you.
They mentioned early on, like when they're at the funeral in the beginning, like they say like, "Oh, make sure she doesn't have anything because we don't have her EpiPen on her." And if I had like maybe like this is like a very minor like complaint or just like a weird thing, it is like, well, if your allergy is that bad, wouldn't you have one on you all the time just in case? Like, I don't know, it seems like kind of a weird thing, but I mean, whatever.
So it takes him a second to realize what's going on, and he grabs her and he runs out to the car and he's driving and he's going over the speed limit. He's like getting to the hospital, and he's not calling his parents. And I'm like, because I'm thinking at this point, oh, she's just not going to make it, and this is going to be like so awkward because he got his sister, his sister died on his watch, and if he'd been
like,
paying
he
attention,
was in the other like he was in the other room getting high, which also, like, if you take in mind too that like state of mind, like him like just
driving, that was the other thing, like he was just getting high and now he's driving at 80 miles per hour, like that is not a good mix of things in any capacity. I didn't predict the exact way it was going to go down though. No. Where she tries to breathe better by sticking her head out the window, and then there's like a dead deer on the road, so he swerves, and we actually get a POV shot from her face to the pole, which, by the way, the pole had the symbol of payment on it. There's the symbol we keep seeing, and she hits the pole, and the car just stops, and you never see her again, right? The camera just stays on him, and he doesn't look. He's too scared to look, and he's sitting there for a while. It's just the awkward silence. There's no music, and then he just starts driving, and I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Call someone! Call! Your mum, dad, the authorities!" Like, this is. I mean, it's an accident. Like, I mean, you were high, so you probably get into some trouble. But if anything, my complaint would be that there doesn't seem to be any repercussions for like any of this outside of everyone being mad at him for it. But he drives home. The car comes in. He gets out. He walks in slowly. He just goes up to bed and lies. And this is oddly relatable. Not in the sense that I've ever killed someone and kept it from anyone for like a day, but just in that sense that when you're a kid and you do something, that you're going to, like, your parents are going to be mad about, but you just don't want to tell them. But they're going to find out eventually, so you're just going to let it sit and wait until they find out, rather than just tell them. Even though as an adult, you're like, no, the best thing to do is just to fess up. Just get it over with, do it, tell them, be honest.
And just that, like, state of mind where you're just lying on your bed and there's other stuff that you probably want to do, but you can't focus on anything. It is just that, like, dread of, like...
Yeah, he's just lying there in dread. We're staring at him because it gets to the next morning and we hear, like, Annie get up and she's like, oh, I'm going out to the car, honey. I'm going to go and pick up something. And you hear the noises of a household. You hear, like, people shouting at each other across rooms. You hear her go out the front door. The car door shuts, so on.
And I think, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think too, when he first gets in at night and maybe like lies down in bed or something, you hear just like a little something like, oh good, they're home, or something like that. You might,
yeah.
Which, like, again, it's just adding to the, like, oh good, they're home. Like,
yeah. This to me is, I mean, the hit, the actual car accident, and then the following like 5-10 minutes for me are like the high point of the movie, and that's not to put down anything else in it. It's just, this was so expertly done. I was in such dread, and it made me feel something that I don't think I've felt this specifically in a movie before, horror or otherwise. This dread of just the other people finding out what he's done. And as soon as she gets into that car, she's going to see the body and find out.
Yeah, and like, part of me was even like thinking like, okay, like, well, we know some weird stuff is going on. Like, is he going to wake up and she's alive and he's going to be like, whoa, what happened or something? Like, I was even kind of guessing like, all right, is there something that's going to drop here that means we're not going to get what I'm, really hoping we don't get, because it's so intense.
I kind of loved that the movie just goes through with it. It just, it plays out exactly how it should play out, and she finds the body. You just hear her screaming. And we cut to like the funeral or whatever, and she's a wreck, he's a wreck, and it was very awkward. And I loved that we never, because I was a little bit disappointed at first immediately when it cut to the funeral, because I really wanted the scene of them coming in and being like, what happened? I wanted that first scene of them confronting him about this.
I can see that, but I kind of like the way it's done here, because
I agree, because we don't see it. And it builds up underneath until that dinner table scene, and that's when it comes out.
Yeah, and even just the like you're saying, you're so focused on Peter, but you're hearing all the voices and stuff, of them getting on, they're going about their morning and stuff, and then just hearing Toni Collette screaming, and then just cutting from her screaming off camera to her screaming at the funeral was just like. So, oh my god, and she's like on her knees, just like grabbing like her husband and stuff. It's so painful.
And of course, eventually she actually builds a little model of the accident,
Oh,
Which
and don't forget to it also cuts to the actual head.
the head, yeah. Eventually, it
Yeah.
cuts to the head with like bugs and maggots all over it. Super grim. But this section of the movie, like the car accident, and then like I mean, I said the following 10 minutes. I was specifically talking about the tension of like them finding out, but all the way up to the dinner table scene
Yeah.
is like just absolute fantastic gold. Just fantastic.
Yeah, it's so good because it's like I feel like you're getting the same like feelings you would get from like a really good horror movie, just like but without the horror elements. Like I still felt like tense and nervous and like disturbed, but without the effect of a ghost or vampire
More
or
so,
something.
I think this is more effective because it's real stuff.
Oh sure,
Like,
yeah. There's no level like there's less of a level of a dissonance where like you can separate like
yeah.
a scary werewolf is like, well, werewolves don't exist or whatever. Although that is up for debate, but but like yeah,
Sure,
this is like
sure thing,
something that could happen potentially.
Yes, yes. So no, that section of the film is absolutely fantastic. Those are the moments. Like I say, he gets to the dinner table scene, and the son actually tries to reach out. That is the real heartbreaking part. Is that he tries to just ask her how she is. It is like a nice thing, and it just builds and erupts until she just stands up and starts screaming at him. And it's which leads to the sort of the dreaming scene where she tries to apologize for everything she said. Which she didn't really do. It was all in a dream, but it's a fantastic scene nonetheless. It's so good.
It's another example of like another movie. You might kind of roll your eyes at like a dream sequence where you're like, okay, like that feels kind of worthless or whatever. But this, it's like even though it's a dream, it still feels like so important and engaging.
Yeah. Of course, the other element in the movie is soon after Charlie dies, June kind of appears into the film. And this is the Ann Dowd character. Of course, she's a fantastic actress. She's been on Leftovers. She's on Handmaid's Tale right now. She's really, really good. But she, and immediately, as soon as they do this thing with the floor mat, the doormat, where it's like, my mum knitted ones just like this. I'm like, okay, so this is the cult, like, second in command or whatever. And she's like, everything she does is just to... Because I think the whole mission from her is that they needed... Annie to do like the seance in her own house to let payment in.
Yeah,
I think that was like the thing, or something to that effect. Like she had to open a door essentially.
Yeah, like make everyone like or maybe not everyone, but maybe just Peter or whatever. But make the house like susceptible to these demonic forces or whatever.
Yeah, it was all kind of part of the plan. So that was good stuff. And of course, at the end of the movie, when the cult's all there, they're all naked. She's there as well. And they're all, you never see her though, or you maybe see her briefly, but once she starts talking, the camera's just on Peter the entire time as he gets his crown on.
And it's interesting the way it kind of shifts focus because like it feels pretty bold because like I don't know about you, but I was kind of assuming that Charlie was probably going to be like the main character in the movie. Like it seemed more like it was focused on her and Toni Collette, and then it kind of shifts focus, and then it gets to a point where like Toni Collette is obviously still pretty important, but then it gets to a point where like, oh wow, like Peter, this person who I didn't really think was going to have that much to do in the movie is now this big center. And again, seeing all those scenes where between like him at school, like freaking out, and then at home, like again, just this real sense of danger where it's like imagine like being afraid of your mother, like because of that incident as a child, but then also like these kind of mounting incidents where like he'll see her in his room or whatever, and it's creepy, and just being afraid that she might do something to you. Like,
one of the simple little scenes that I liked was which I think it's after he sees the light again, so I think this is Payman trying to take over, but it fails. Is like he starts freaking out and his hand goes in the air and his face kind of goes like all sort of skewed. I think that's like Payman trying to go inside, but he's not ready yet.
Yeah, and I think by the end of the movie, when I think they don't they show something that's kind of like has that a similar like pose. I forget if it was like the mannequin or maybe the picture in the book, but
you may be right.
think,
yeah,
like I think if you watch it again, I think like maybe the mannequin or something has its hand raised the same way or something like that.
I think this is a movie that's got a lot of little clues that you probably recognize even better the second time through. I feel like it's a really well constructed movie in that sense.
Okay.
And it's no, like we say, performances are fantastic. The actual character interaction and drama, and the tension that comes from that, and their concerns over what's happening,
Mm.
are far more impressive than any of the actual scary horror things that are happening. Even though they're still actually pretty damn good, by
Yeah,
anyone's standards.
and you know what's great too is like everyone kind of has like their own like distinct I guess like situation going on or whatever. Like it's not all like in a horror movie where it's just like, oh, everyone is just trying to run away from this ghost or whatever. It's like you have like Tony Collette who's dealing with like this kind of mental illness past, and then also trying to like communicate with her dead daughter. And then you have the dad who is really like, I feel like he's kind of understated in the movie, but I feel like there really is kind of like an unseen level of like grief that he has going on, where he's just really trying hard to keep this family together.
Yeah,
But it's like,
he's trying his best. I think one of the interesting things about his character is that whoever Payman's going to take, I think has to be in the family bloodline, and obviously he's like not he came in.
yeah,
You know,
that's
sure,
true.
he's
Yeah,
the father to the kids, but he's not part of Annie's mother's bloodline, and
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
and I think they want him out of the way. He's this pesky nuisance, like trying to like hold things together. So he's kind of tragic in that sense because he's the normal dude.
yeah,
And I think a big part of the film as well is earlier on in the film when she's talking about how bad her mother was and how her relationship was and how she kept her first child away from. She kind of tried to let her see Charlie, which obviously turned out for the worse. Um, but because even the fact that Charlie said at one point, "Grandma wished I was a boy," even that
yeah,
ties into all this stuff. But I loved it when she's talking about her mother, how crazy she was, and how she was like, even the eulogy where she was so distant, and she, if you tried to talk about her, she would be upset about it, and she would even hate that we're doing this now, and so on. Which I just remember actually, she even comments like, "Oh, there's a lot more people here than I was expecting." That's all those cult
oh,
members.
it's true. Yeah,
Yeah. But when she's talking about that in a self-help group, it really does sound like she's talking about like she's worried about mental illness, like she's going to like go like her mother.
yeah,
And even the idea that our daughter is already like almost like it's skipped a generation, and our daughter's like already like weird like her mother is.
yeah,
To put it in a sort of crude term, but like it really does feel like it's a fear of mental illness, and the other characters are kind of reacting that way. It's not until 2/3 in where it's like, okay, But I loved it. I think sometimes in some supernatural horror movies, you'll have the husband not believe the wife who's been seeing the ghosts or whatever. But I
yeah.
think in this movie, it completely sells that this looks like a mental illness from his
Oh, without a
point of
doubt.
view.
Yeah.
It feels like that. But
And again, like you really get the sense that he is just like teetering on the breaking point where
yeah,
trying so hard to keep everything together. Like, he's the one that's actually dealing with like the grave desecration, and and again trying to hold the family together and make sure dinner gets made, and everything that it's yeah, I feel like kind of like yeah, like maybe a little like understated the role that he's taking, but yeah,
yeah.
there's like a lot of like gravitas to that.
All four family members are really important, and then Joan as well
Yeah.
is kind of the fifth one that's important. And I think the reason why all that stuff works and why his doubt and why the mental illness aspect works is purely down to how good the characters are written and how good the performances are and how the direction does let the scenes breathe. It lets all the awkward moments play.
Yeah.
It wants you to feel the tension in the room, not tension in a scary way. The tension between the characters. It's really
Definitely.
excellently directed character drama stuff. And
Yeah.
who would have thought that actually makes for a better horror movie? Because if you buy the characters that much, when stuff starts happening,
Mhm.
it's more effective.
I know,
Who'd have
it's
thought?
such a crazy concept.
I
But
know.
who knew?
But no, it's just
Right.
there's the list of characters who are there to get killed. That's
Yeah.
all they are.
Hey, two quick questions. All right, so first one, do you think the cult was basically responsible for Charlie's death?
The
'Cause, like,
symbol on the pole would indicate so, and also the fact that they even say in the final scene, like, "Oh, we had to get rid of Charlie," or something to that effect, like before it was free for you, before it to come to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, because obviously, like, it's not like they set up like, all right, this guy's gonna have a party and then blah blah blah. But I feel like they must have done some like ritual or something to say like, all right, tonight like
She's doomed. Yeah.
events will transpire or whatever. And then the other thing, like, I'm kind of surprised you didn't bring it up, and I feel like this might be a
Oh.
complaint most people have, which I do think it's a little clunky, but I don't mind it. But there was like one scene that definitely feels like super exhibition-y, where like she exposition-y, where she's like, you know, going through all her mother's like old stuff, and it's just like doing that movie thing where it's just like, oh, like I'm flipping through books and finding just the right passage to give us information, and like just the right pictures and stuff. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, you know, when I talk about it shifting gears in the last kind of half, last third, whatever it is, I think along with that shift comes a few tropes where before it didn't have any tropes, but you
yeah,
know, the seeing the book pages flip is the one for me. It's like, okay, now we're doing some of the ghost movie tropes, basically,
yeah,
right? That one is a trope, absolutely. I don't think it's too bad though. I feel like
yeah, I
it
agree.
bugs me much more when it's research on the internet and they find the subject just, you know, out there and they get all the
Yeah,
exact stuff. At least in this case, in this context, the mother was the head of this cult and she kept journals and she kept this. Um,
that's true. Yeah,
you know, I mean, I guess you could say, okay, it's mainly convenient she never looked at that photo album and saw, you know, Joan
yeah,
before that point in the movie to discover that, oh, she knew my mother. Oh, no, she's not trustworthy.
yeah,
You know, so I mean, you could argue that a little bit, I think, but at least
definitely.
the stuff being there is actually set up earlier on. There's context for it, and she only goes to look at it once she has the motivation to do so. So it's not too bad. But I mean, it absolutely is a
Yeah,
trope. There's definitely some tropes in there. I think some of the scary stuff is a trope here or there,
yeah.
but for the most part, handled so well in the direction that it's not too much of a big deal. So I hope my the start of this wasn't sounding too negative for me because no, it's actually
No,
really
I don't
great.
think so. Yeah.
But yeah, but you know, not without a few critiques here or there. Um, so yeah, I was gonna compare it to some of those other tentpole horror movies we were talking about. You know, the big heavy hitters from the last few years,
Yeah.
and say which I like better or whatnot. But I'm not going to because I feel like next time we do a top list of some sort, uh, you'll find out where things place.
Okay. Well, I mean, I kind of love the state that horror is in right now, where like, you know, I feel like we begin like, you know, decent you know, amount of like good movies every year, but I love that it seems like every year we have at least one that is just like who, like, you know, like above the pack, like instant classic, like, you know, I've seen like people online kind of comparing this to films like Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist and stuff, and I definitely feel like this is gonna be one that's, you know, talked about like you
Yeah,
know, in
it's
those
definitely
movies.
if you're going to put it into a subgenre, it's definitely sort of closer to those than it is,
Yeah.
say, I don't know, The Haunting.
Sure. Yeah.
um, but yeah, so no, it's good. By the way, is this the first time you've recorded one of these movie reviews since the Halloween trailer dropped?
Oh, yeah, it must have been.
I think it is.
You want to talk about
So good, Tim. It's so freaking good.
I'm really excited. Yeah. It looks great. I mean, just the like all like the I mean, again, like, you know, similar to this movie, like it looks like it has like a really cool like visual sense to it. Like just that, you know, scene with kind of like the checkered floor of the mental hospital like looked really
Mm.
cool.
The
And
mask looks good. The music coming in like got me so hyped. That final scare in the closet.
oh yeah,
So good.
the the I mean, if I have one complaint, and it's not the trailer's fault, it's my fault. The only thing is like that's like such a good scare that it's kind of like I
Mm.
kind of wish, you know, it didn't get ruined. But I
Hey,
mean, obviously my fault for watching the trailer.
I'll tell you this, Tim. Don't watch the trailer for Unfriended Dark Web because it shows like the
All
whole
right,
movie.
I already saw it.
Oh
Yeah,
god, it shows far too much. I'm like, it literally shows like every character's death. I'm like,
yeah.
what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm still excited though. I've heard good things about that. Like, and that's another one that I've heard. I saw, like, I think it was at maybe like South by Southwest or something,
Mm,
that critics seem to have
there was
good
good
things to
buzz,
say.
yeah.
So
Well, the first one was pleasantly surprising, so
yeah,
we'll see how the second one. But the Halloween, I'm so hyped. Like, we already had Quiet Place. We've had this now. Uh, did you see the trailer for the Suspiria remake,
I did. Yeah, too.
which
Actually, I'm like,
also looks good?
and what's crazy to me is if so obviously, you know, we've seen Hereditary now at this point, which was great, and then if Suspiria and Halloween are great, it'll just be crazy to me that like, wow, this is a year where we had an amazing original horror movie, an amazing sequel, and an amazing remake, reboot, or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a hell of a year. And then yeah, there's other things that might end up being good too. Because the Nun trailer went up. That looks okay. Looks a fine Conjuring-esque movie.
Oh sure, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That one was definitely more teasery. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to get into the meat of that. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's
I'll blow my
I feel
socks off, but it looks like it could be
Yeah.
fine.
yeah. I feel like the beginning of the year it was kind of like a slog, and there wasn't that much I was excited for. But as stuff is getting ramping up, it's like, wow, this actually might be a great year.
And then Resident Evil 2 remake in January, which is not movies,
Ooh.
but it's worth mentioning because I'm hyped about it. So, no, like our top 10 at the end of the year might be quite interesting, Timmy.
Yeah.
Might be quite interesting.
Or at least top 5.
Oh, don't be cynical. Oh, the last 5 are going to be terrible movies. But hey, so we should rate Hereditary.
Okay.
We should rate Hereditary. So what are you giving it out of 10?
This might be maybe a little bit of a shock, but I think I'm gonna give it a 10. I
Tim, you're such a 10 slut.
I think I've done way more 10s than you, but I honestly I don't think like I can't really think of like one bad thing about it. Like I mean, we mentioned like a few tiny nitpicks here and there, but honestly, like like even like maybe the little tropey thing is so inconsequential, and the good just vastly outweigh it. Where and again, like I can't remember like having like the feelings I've had in this movie where it is so unrelenting and disturbing, and you just feel like you need a cold shower after you leave. I cannot stress enough how much I liked it, and also a big
Wait a minute. Do people have cold showers because they felt stressed before?
I think yeah, sometimes like a cold shower, like if you feel like
I was
need
under
to
the
get-
impression cold showers for when you're feeling horny but can't do anything about it.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what stress does to you. So you have to take the.
Alright.
It's such an erection at the end of this movie. It's like, but no, also I was gonna say, a big fu to the very snooty, pretentious people behind me. That as soon as the movie was over, the first thing they said is, "Well, that was good, but it's not a horror movie. It's a drama with horror elements." Shut up! It is a horror movie.
It's
and
a
it is
horror
a great
movie.
one.
Me talking about how good the drama is does not make it not a horror movie.
No, if anything, it's a horror movie with drama elements. Let's get it right.
Well, drama is such a thing though. Like, drama should be in everything. Drama is like
Yeah, no,
just
exactly.
the core concept of storytelling.
This is an argument I was having with not an argument, but a discussion I was having with someone else earlier, which I'm sure you've had many times as well. Which I just don't think that people understand the horror genre, because like
Oh
I
sure,
think
yeah.
like I think people literally just think it's like, oh, Friday the 13th slasher movies. Like people don't understand. It's like, no, you can have serious horror movies, you can have funny horror movies, you have ones that are cheesy, you have one that are more prestige and like admirable and stuff. It's a genre. It's not just one type of thing.
No, I agree. I completely agree. As
But,
for my
yeah.
rating
10.
of Hereditary, to follow your 10, your perfect score, I am going with an 8.5.
Ooh, okay, surprising. I thought you might go with like a 9 or something, but okay.
That's half a point of a difference. So isn't that surprising? It may go up
it's
on.
real damn good.
It may go up in repeat viewings. Like I think some of the main problem I had might be something that irons out on a repeat viewing, where I go in knowing what it is and I can appreciate the build to that on its own.
Yeah.
But there was a bit of a shift for me on this viewing that it did dock at the I say that docks at a point, and then the other half point is probably the just a couple of the tropey things.
That's
That
fair.
I mean, oh, that's a tropey moment. I was sitting there in the theater going, "That's a trope. That's deductions. They take off a point for tropes." Right, so 8.5.
I think, yeah, I think like I don't I'd actually thought about this like for a little bit, but because even when you really like something, you don't want to give the a sought after 10 like right away until you maybe like watched it a few times. But I again, like I'd been sitting on it for about a week, and the more I thought about it, it was just like, yeah, I mean, I can't, I don't want to wait to watch it again, or
This
say,
is
well, it's too
rich
new, so-
coming from you. You hand 10s out right away. Hence the 10 slit comment from earlier.
Oh, I don't think I've given that many. I mean,
You've given more 10s than I have on this show by far. By
yeah,
far.
well, yeah, that's because you're a little
You trying to tell me I'm a prude? Is that what you're trying to tell me? I'm a 10 prude?
Hey, I'm sorry that I like stuff. I mean, God forbid I should love a horror movie.
Yeah, well, you say that, but you should feel ashamed for liking The Boy, right? You should.
Nope.
You should. That movie was terrible.
10 on that one. I'm giving I don't know what my original score was, but I'll give a retroactive 10 on that one because that was
dare
not
you.
up with viewings.
That's Hereditary. There you go.
You almost said The Boy.
I didn't. No, I didn't. Shut up. Ah, dear. Tim, life is a sexually transmitted disease.
Hells yeah.
I don't know why the word hereditary just made me think of that.
I was trying to think. Wait, was that from the movie? I was like,
No, it wasn't from the movie.
It seems so out of place.
It came up. It was fun. I'd have to admit. See, when she was telling him that she tried to get rid of him and have a miscarriage, I actually did inadvertently think of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when Charlie finds out he's an abortion survivor.
Oh.
And I sort of snickered to myself a little bit. It's a really serious matter. I didn't audibly, laugh. I wouldn't ruin the experience for anyone like that. But in my head, I was thinking about that because it almost sounded like she was going to say, "You're an abortion survivor."
There was one scene that kind of like, not like a huge like out loud laugh, but one scene that did kind of make me snicker a little bit is when he was like freaking out in class, and they just kind of, after he's done, they kind of just cut to all the students like, kind of, they all like run from their desk and they're all like huddled up in this corner, and there's one just filming with his cell phone, and it was just it's really funny to me. But like, I do think that would happen, like, something.
Oh yeah, that's just life now.
Yeah, but like it was just kind of like a funny, I don't know, it just kind of struck me as kind of funny.
That's Hereditary. Yeah, that has been our discussion of Hereditary. We'll be back very soon with another horror film, so you can look forward to that. Sooner than normal. You won't have to wait a whole week. This is going up sooner after we record it, and then you'll get a regular episode on Wednesday as per normal. So this is kind of an extra almost, because we are wonderful people and we give you wonderful content. If you'd like to reward us for such wonderful content, you can go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV.
Paimon.com.
Don't go to payment.com. So yeah, you go to Patreon and you get voting rights. You get to vote once per month on an episode of Streams. Of course, we're doing Tenebrae soon. That'll probably be in a week or so's time. You'll be getting that because that was the winner of the vote from last month. And then there's a vote up right now for next month. All the films in the vote right now. There's usually a theme. The theme this month for the vote is movies that are set in hotels or motels.
Oh yeah,
that's the theme. So go and check that out if you're a patron.
It's a summer. It's vacation time. People are, heading out.
That was the idea. Not that that's how we got to it. Tim just started shouting out random words, and he said hotel, and I went, "Oh, we can do a theme of hotels."
Well, don't ruin the process.
So you check out Patreon, and that helps a lot. Even $1, of course, is fantastic. But if you can't do that, of course, you can also support us by liking, subscribing, commenting, and let us know what you thought of the movies. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. You can get Tim on Twitter at timvergulish.
Oh,
just
right.
that. Yeah, there's no number at the end of yours. Yeah, I remember the other guys. You can get me on
I was
Twitter.
very lucky to get that very common name.
Yes, not a lot of Vergulishes in the in the world. You can get me on Twitter at Wibble89. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.